The average Premier League club spends over 60% of its entire revenue just on player wages, and yet most clubs in the league still lose money every single season. That's not a mismanaged business. That's the normal state of Premier League football, where owning a club is one of the only businesses in the world where losing money can still make you enormously wealthy. Most people think owning a Premier League club is about ticket sales and shirt sponsorships, a straightforward sports business like any other. It's actually one of the strangest financial structures in modern business, where operating losses are common, broadcast money dwarfs matchday income, and the real prize isn't annual profit at all. It's the appreciation of the club itself. Understanding exactly how that works separates owners who are genuinely building long-term value from the ones burning cash chasing short-term glory. So let's actually open the books on this one. The reality check. From the outside, owning a Premier League club looks like glamour and simple economics. Sold-out stadiums, replica shirts everywhere, a global fan base, and a famous name on the door. It looks like a straightforward business. Fill the stadium, sell merchandise, collect prize money. What's actually happening behind that famous name is closer to running a media company that occasionally plays football. Broadcast revenue, the money the Premier League collects from domestic and international TV deals and distributes to all 20 clubs, dwarfs matchday ticket income for almost every club in the league. Layered on top of that is intense competition for player talent that drives wages relentlessly upward. Strict financial regulations designed to stop clubs from simply spending their way to success, and a promotion and relegation system where dropping out of the league can cost a club well over $100 million in a single season through lost broadcast revenue alone. That's exactly why smart ownership in this league isn't about maximizing this year's profit. It's about building sustainable value while navigating rules specifically designed to prevent clubs from spending recklessly. But here's what the numbers actually look like. Chapter 1. Startup Costs. Buying into the Premier League isn't like starting a business from scratch. Nearly every entry point is an acquisition of an existing club, since the league operates a closed structure of 20 clubs, with no direct path to simply build a new one and join. Recent Premier League club sales illustrate the real price of entry. Chelsea sold for roughly $4.25 billion in 2022. Newcastle United's takeover in 2021 was valued at around $300 million for a controlling stake, reflecting a club with lower global commercial appeal at the time. Manchester United's recent partial sale valued the club at around $5.4 billion. Beyond the purchase price itself, new owners typically inherit significant existing costs, a squad of players under contract with wages and transfer fees already committed, a stadium requiring ongoing maintenance, and occasionally major redevelopment costing hundreds of millions of pounds, and an academy system that Premier League clubs are required to maintain to specific standards for youth development. The Premier League also requires prospective owners to pass an owners and directors test, examining financial standing and background before any takeover can be approved, a process that can take months. Here's what most people miss. Buying a smaller or mid-table Premier League club is dramatically cheaper than buying one of the traditional giants, but the ongoing costs of simply staying competitive and staying in the league at all can be just as demanding regardless of the initial purchase price, since relegation risk exists for every club outside the very top tier. Chapter 2. Revenue Streams. A Premier League club generates revenue through three main pillars, and the balance between them looks very different from most traditional businesses. Broadcast revenue is by far the largest single source for most clubs. The Premier League's domestic and international TV rights deals generate billions of pounds collectively, distributed to all 20 clubs based on final league position, number of televised matches, and a share split roughly evenly, regardless of size. Meaning even a newly promoted club receives a substantial guaranteed broadcast payment simply for being in the league that season. Commercial revenue is the second major pillar. Shirt sponsorships, stadium naming rights, kit manufacturer deals, and global partnership agreements. This is where the gap between elite clubs and mid-table clubs becomes enormous, since a club like Manchester United or Manchester City can command commercial deals worth many multiples of what a smaller Premier League club can attract, purely based on global brand size and fan base. Matchday revenue, ticket sales, hospitality boxes, and stadium concessions is typically the smallest of the three pillars for most clubs, though it remains significant for clubs with larger stadiums and strong season ticket bases. Transfer activity adds another layer entirely. Selling a player for more than his book value can generate a substantial one-off profit that shows up directly in a club's annual accounts. Here's the number that surprises most people. For a typical mid-table Premier League club, broadcast revenue alone can represent well over half of total annual revenue, which is exactly why league position and the number of nationally televised matches matter so enormously to a club's finances, often more than matchday attendance itself.
Chapter 3. Operating Costs. Now to what actually eats into that revenue, and this is where Premier League economics become genuinely unusual. Player wages are the dominant cost by a wide margin. Premier League clubs commonly spend 50% to 70% of total revenue on player and staff wages combined, a ratio far higher than almost any other major industry would tolerate, driven by intense competition for talent in a global market where top players can command annual salaries well into 8 figures. Here's the part that trips up almost everyone outside the industry. Transfer fees don't hit the books as one lump cost. When a club signs a player for £50 million on a 5-year contract, that fee gets spread out as roughly $10 million a year in amortization, a non-cash accounting charge that still eats directly into annual profit. Clubs that spend heavily in the transfer market can easily be carrying $30 million to $80 million a year in amortization alone, on top of wages, which is exactly why a club's transfer window headlines and its actual annual profit and loss statement often tell two completely different stories. Stadium operating costs, academy funding, coaching staff, medical and performance science departments, and travel for European and domestic away fixtures all add further ongoing overhead beyond the playing squad itself. Regulatory rules place real limits on how much a club can spend and lose. Domestically, clubs must comply with the Premier League's own profitability and sustainability rules, commonly known as PSR, while clubs competing in European competitions face UEFA's separate financial sustainability regulations. Both Everton and Nottingham Forest received Premier League points deductions in recent seasons for breaching PSR specifically, not any European rule, which shows how seriously the league now enforces its own domestic spending limits. Here's the retention hook worth remembering. Because wages are largely fixed once contracts are signed, a club that gets relegated doesn't just lose broadcast income. It's often still carrying a wage bill built for Premier League revenue, while now earning championship-level income, which is exactly why relegation has bankrupted or severely damaged clubs that didn't plan for that scenario.
Chapter 4. Profit margins and real numbers.
So what's actually left over? Across the Premier League, many clubs report thin operating margins or outright losses in a given season once wages, transfer amortization, and overhead are accounted for, with profitability varying enormously by club, depending on commercial size and cup competition success.
Let's run a simplified example for a mid-table club. Take total annual revenue of £150 million, split roughly as £100 million in broadcast revenue, $15 million in matchday revenue, and $35 million in commercial revenue. Player wages at 60% of revenue take $90 million. On paper, before anything else, that leaves $60 million. But here's the catch that catches first-time owners off guard: transfer amortization. A club that's been active in the market, spending heavily on multi-year contracts, can easily be carrying $30 to $40 million a year in amortization charges alone. Add stadium upkeep, academy costs, and administrative overhead on top of that, roughly another $30 million, and total costs beyond wages climb to $60 to $70 million. Stack everything together. $90 million in wages, plus $60 to $70 million in amortization and overhead, and total costs land at roughly $150 to $160 million against $150 million in revenue.
In other words, that mid-table club is likely operating at break-even or a modest loss before a single player is sold, which is exactly the financial reality for the large majority of Premier League clubs outside the very top tier. Here's what makes this business genuinely different from almost any other. A single successful player sale, say developing a young academy talent and selling him for £40 million more than his book value, can single-handedly flip that season from a loss into a genuine profit, which is exactly why player trading has become as important a skill for modern club executives as matchday operations.
Chapter 5. Risks and what makes someone succeed or fail.
Now, the honest part. This business carries real, sport-specific risks that don't exist almost anywhere else. Relegation risk is the single biggest threat. Dropping out of the Premier League can cost a club well over £100 million in lost broadcast revenue in the following season alone.
Relegated clubs do receive parachute payments, cushioning the fall with roughly £100 million in support spread across 3 seasons, which gives them a real financial advantage over other championship clubs competing for promotion. But that safety net creates its own trap. Many relegated clubs are left carrying a wage overhang, a squad still contracted at Premier League level salaries that the club simply cannot sustain on championship level revenue, which is exactly why some clubs spend years struggling to rebuild even with parachute money in hand. On-pitch performance volatility adds another layer. Unlike most businesses, a club's revenue can swing significantly based on results nobody fully controls, since missing out on lucrative European competition qualification by a handful of points can mean tens of millions in lost revenue. PSR and financial sustainability regulations violations carry real consequences too. Points deductions, transfer bans, or fines, as both Everton and Nottingham Forest experienced in recent seasons, which shows regulators are enforcing these rules more aggressively than ever. But here's what actually separates ownership groups that thrive from ones that struggle: disciplined recruitment and academy investment over reckless spending. The most successful modern owners build data-driven recruitment departments that identify undervalued talent before rivals do, invest seriously in academy development to create both on-pitch quality and profitable player sales, and manage wage structures conservatively enough to survive a bad season without a financial crisis. The ownership groups that struggle usually made one of 2 mistakes. They overspent on wages and transfer amortization, chasing short-term success without a sustainable financial plan. Or they mismanaged the balance between ambition and PSR compliance, leading to points deductions or forced player sales at the worst possible time. This is a business built for owners who think in 5 and 10-year cycles, not people chasing a single trophy season. Everything here is general business education, not financial, legal, or investment advice. Premier League club ownership is an extraordinarily exclusive, capital-intensive space requiring league approval, significant equity capital, and specialized legal and financial guidance well beyond anything covered here. What's clear from the numbers is that owning a Premier League club isn't really about chasing annual profit. It's about navigating one of the most unusual financial structures in sport, where broadcast revenue, wage discipline, and smart player trading matter far more than most fans ever realize. So here's my question for you. Would you rather own a smaller, financially stable Premier League club with modest ambitions, or a bigger club with higher spending, higher risk, and a shot at real silverware? Tell me what you choose and why in the comments.